Hello there and welcome to the studio. My name is Matthew Palmer and today we're going to be painting in a beautiful Christmas card. Yes, we're getting a little bit festive today in the studio. So what we've got is a sheet of watercolour paper here. This is quite a smallish sheet of watercolour paper. It's actually part of the watercolour greetings cards kits that we sell on the website watercolour.tv. So check those out if you're interested. These are real premium, beautiful quality things made out of a very thick mount board structure, extremely high quality, exclusive to us here at Watercolour TV. So we've got this sheet of paper stuck to a board. It's probably about 6 inches by about 3-4 inches, something like that size. Doesn't really matter. You could put a little bit of a tilt on the board. I always think a little bit of popping something underneath the head of the board is a good idea, but not essential. Now over here we've got the palette. We'll go through the colours as we do the mixing and the brushes, but because it's a bit spontaneous, I don't quite know what brushes I'm going to use until I start doing them. Basically, I am going to be using kitchen paper. That is always something to have at hand. I've got my 3 brushes here, which I think I'm going to use. I might use more of these, we'll see how we go. I've got a Matthew Palmer Tree and Texture brush, the original one, that's the large size. I've got a size 10 round brush as well. It's called the Matthew Palmer Super Point, but it's a size 10 round. I've got a size 6 or small Super Point brush. That'll do me for the minute. I might bring in some more colours later on, but as a starting point I'm quite happy with what we've got there. I'm going to use that masking tape again, the one that's underneath there. And what I want to do is I want to take a piece of this tape that's big enough to go across the picture. Just stick it to that first and then peel it back up. And then I just want to sort of do a little bit of a woodland kind of vibe to this. So I want to do a bit of a hillside, sweeping down, something like that. Perfect. Then I'm going to use that size 10 brush with watered out. I'll be honest with you, this water's been here a couple of days. And it's always a bad idea putting your tea next to your water pot, so just be a little bit cautious of that, won't you? We don't want to be getting any incidents. And we're going to wet the top section of the paper. So we'll give it a good coverage. There you go. Perfect. And literally I'm just going to take a little bit of this colour, which is Natural Violet. All the colours are available on watercolour.tv, should you be interested. They're all my design of colour, but you can use your own variations, of course. But we're going to use that violet there. And very simply, what I want to do here is just to sort of bring in a bit of this colour at the top here. A little bit of a twist. Don't want too much of it, just a little bit coming down. Something like that. Like a little bit of a twisty kind of brush stroke, really, is what I'm interested in. If I clean the brush, pop that brush away actually, because I want to use this one, which is a Tree and Texture brush. That's my next brush that I want to use, and I want to get that brush and make it nice and clean. And I'm going to be using some natural orange, quite strong. I want to mix that with a little bit of natural brown, so we get somewhere in the middle. Give it a little bit of water and a good old stipple the brush. Wash the brush into the palette. You can see it goes all lovely and spiky at that point. Just what we need. Got the kitchen paper there. And what I want to do basically is I want to stipple in some like a background woodland, late autumn, early winter kind of thing. I'm going to bring that in. We're going to go darker this, make it more autumnal, but basically with every stipple of the brush you get this lovely effect of the sort of trees going in. Really nice brushes, and the angle of these brushes is sloped, so that's what goes literally flat to your paper, and it'll give you that lovely effect of trees basically working really nice. Now that is quite bright for a wintry scene, so we're going to go darker. We're going to jump over here, we're going to add more brown to the mix. That same stipple going in here, making this thing darker as we progress through, and this is what's going to make it work really well. We're going to put some snowy trees in here in a minute or two, so it's going to get really quite wintry. I want to go a little bit darker, so I want to introduce some natural grey, lovely gorgeous shadow colour. Look at that, it's gone very, I mean, that is almost like a gouache acrylic consistency at this point, which is really quite nice, yeah? And then we can go darker across that bottom. Very important little thing to do there. This is where you get the wintry vibe coming through now. But I don't want to make it all dark, so what I want to do at this point, I want to stop there so you can see where the dark mixes with the other colours when it's bouncing the light at the minute. If I clean the brush really, really well in the water and squeeze the life out of it, I've got the tissue here, I've got a couple of bits of tissue, give it a nice dampness. So it's basically, I've cleaned it and it's just a bit damp, and what I want to do with that is basically just tap over the top of it all, and that'll blend it all together. Now we want to get some frosty, snowy covered kind of branches in at this point, trunks and things. And how are we going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use a card or a palette knife. Now at the back of the studio I've got all sorts of bits and pieces at the back of that Christmas sign. We put that up there. In here, for example, in this mug, we've got some plastic cards. So I've got a plastic card here. I've also got a palette knife as well. I want to use those. So what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to basically put a lot of pressure on that card and go up. And then I'm going to do these little branches. So this, you know, is going to give you the twigs, the branches, the woodland. Now, you can see it works quite well with a plastic card. If you want something a bit more detailed, you can use a palette knife. Not a sharp knife, a palette knife, like a blunt knife that's used for obviously art. But look at that, isn't that good? Isn't it good? You get that sort of wintry branch, silver birch tree, whatever. Over this side will do the same as well. Put lots of pressure on the bottom and gradually ease it up. That's the secret here. So you can just use a plastic card all the way through. Or if you want to use something a bit more detailed, then you've got options. You've got options, okay? So you could quite easily use a palette knife to run alongside it. And I think just a few little random flicks every so often, almost with no pressure, you can hear the blade just catching the paper there. Just a little flick of the edge. And it gives you that impression of lots of trees in the woodland. And then very carefully, obviously, you take the masking tape away. You do it like with extreme care here. Don't rip it off too passionate. But look at that, you've got that lovely sort of woodland with this little hillside. Now that hillside does obviously want some detail in it, and we're going to be doing that. I've got my size 6 brush here, and I'm going to be using this colour, which is called Natural Violet. Now it looks quite blue, but it's got a very subtle violet tinge to it. It's not a strong violet. Don't use purple, it's too much. We're going to use that, and what we're going to do here is paint this in the corner, pretty much all the way along that foreground. We're going to rinse the brush out really well. Just give it a little tap on tissue and just use water. Can you see I'm blending it back? Because I want it to be a graduation, and I keep sort of dunking the brush in the water, giving it a tap on tissue to get that lovely hillside effect. Are you with me? There you go. Look how you've got that depth. You can cast across the hillside. Now we're just going to give that a couple of moments to dry. In fact, what I'm going to do is I've got a little drying tool here. This is a little heat gun what I use. The audio cuts out at this point, but we'll just give it a quick blast. That was literally like watching paint dry. And once that's had a moment or two to dry, we're going to come back to the palette here. Should be nice and dry at this point. We're going to use the violet and put some cast shadows on. Yeah, but where's your light coming from? Good question, Albert. Where is the light coming from? We're going to get the light coming across from the right, shining through them. They're trees. Good. Okay, so we're going to go in. And basically we're going to go across and just put these lovely, don't be afraid, I'm bloody terrified. Don't be afraid of putting these in, just go for it. Just let your paint be one. Follow the cast shadow effect. That lovely stream of confident brush strokes. Do a little bit more on the horizon, like so. And then my advice to you is just simply rinse your brush. Give it a bit of a tap on here, and then with the damp brush, just lightly glaze over the top of it. You're skimming, and if you look at this happening, what is basically going off here is it creating a softness. It's blending the paint out a little bit, creating a lovely edge. And look how nice that is. That looks beautiful. I love that. I really like to see that in a picture. I think it looks great. You can calm down as much as you want, darken as much as you like, but I think it looks really nice. That dramatic light just streaming across the picture there looks absolutely beautiful. Now what I'm going to do next is I want to use actually the smallest of the tree brushes. This is basically a small tree and texture brush. That one's a little bit, got a couple here. Let me give them a rinse. We've got some green paint on from a previous adventure. There we go, small one. And that dark colour that's already in the palette is probably good enough for what I want, to be fair. This colour here, this is basically a mixture of grey and brown. Natural grey, natural brown. And I'm going to give it a good old rinse. Pick up some of that colour. And I'm going to use this plastic card again here to do the sort of hedgerow effect. A little area of darkness. I don't want too much of this, if I'm honest. A little bit of darkness, just tap away the excess. I just want to create a much slightly darker edge, just a smidge. I don't want, like I said, I don't want a huge amount of this. I don't think it needs much, but just a little bit of added shadow. Just like a little bit of a hedge. You can just see it there. See that darkness I've added? And then I'll put that brush away. And then get yourself a really pointy brush of some kind. I'm using this super point brush with a lovely strong grey. Just giving it a bit of a tap on tissue. Mould the tip. It's always a good idea to mould the tip, you know, to make it look crisper. And I want to put a little bit of a gateway in. Give yourself some scale here. Take that down the hillside, so you can just about make that out there. And then we'll go in. Put the little gate in. I just think it gives a focal point, you know, if you do something like this. Slightly dry brush, and then just lightly, just sort of drag some of that texture. Now what a dry brush is when you remove the excess colour, and what it'll do is it'll just give a little bit of added shadow onto that edge. Doesn't need much, does it? Just a smidge. Nice to see that. I think it looks really effective then. You can see that, you know, you've got something to give you scale. All of a sudden you've got that in there, the little fence, and it just gives a little sense of scale to your picture, which is quite nice. Lovely jubbly. So what I want to do next then is just take a little bit of white paint, not much. I've got my own white, which is a lovely white watercolour. Just want a little smidge of it just there. Gouache acrylic, something like that would be quite good here, to be fair. Just want to get a little bit of water on the brush. Not much at all. And then I just feel I want to put a little bit of white in the trees and the gate, just to give a little bit of a final snowy vibe to it. So I've got the white here, it's on the brush, important little step to do. I think just a couple of little dots of white around here would be quite nice. That paint is a little bit damp still, so it'll probably bleed a little bit, but that's okay. Little dots, and even just bring a little bit of that just going up into the trees there. You use whatever brush you think works best for you, really. I mean, that's just giving a bit of a snowy feel to it. And if you're very careful, you could put a little bit on the gate, on the tops of the posts. And if you get the finest brush you can manage, you can even put a little bit of the white. Just, I mean, this is getting quite small here, but giving a little bit of a snowy vibe to it. That's great. I love that. What that's done using this white paint is it's just given a little bit of a sort of focal point. You're sort of drawn into the picture at that point, aren't you? Now what I want to do with this, I'm going to take this off. I mean, in its own right, it's a lovely painting. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this into a Christmas card. And we actually have these. We can actually buy these on Watercolour TV, and these are a very, very premium quality greetings card made from a lovely thick mount board. I mean, these are robust. They kind of open up threefold when they come out of the pack. Now, the reason for that is because what you do is you take a little bit of tape and you pop that tape just at the back of the picture there, a bit of masking tape. And then you pop that in place, so you get that into your position, so about there. Press it down, so that's in place. So there's the framed picture. But then what you've got is, if we open this thing up here, you've got 3 areas of pre-stuck double-sided tape, which you peel off, close up, and that's a permanent fixture. And that is what it's all about. And I always think that these kind of pictures look lovely with a signature, especially if you're going to send it as a gift to somebody. They look really nice. I'm going to sign it here. And say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little watercolour tutorial. Thanks for watching. Do make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.